Hi, welcome to Slick Willy Fly, and today we're making this. I don't actually have a name for this fly, but it's a great fly. Catches a lot of fish. We'll figure out a name and we'll put a name on it, but like so many flies that I tie, and like so many flies that probably a lot of everyone ties, you had a little bit of leftover materials and you just threw something together and you take it out and it catches fish. There you go. I imagine there's a lot, I'm hoping anyway, that there's a lot of young people out there, probably on very limited budgets, and maybe you don't have a ton of materials, and that's the whole point of Slick Willy Fly. So this is a little bit of craft fur, which I marked up with a marker. This is a little bit of brush underneath, but you don't have to use a brush. You can easily use any kind of a dubbing or body material. And I put a little bit of silly legs, a couple of, I think that might be one strand of Krystal flash, and some Dumbell eyes. You could tie this in any shape and size. I mean, sky's the limit. You definitely don't need to have a brush. You can easily do this with some kind of body material, but let's talk materials real fast, because this is the whole point of Slick Willy. So craft fur for the tail, the wing, I'm sorry. I mean, this bag of craft fur I bought in Sweden. I don't know what craft fur is costing these days, but let's say it's $5 or $6. I could easily tie 30 streamers with this bag. I'm using a little bit of shrimp brush. Now, you don't have to use brush. I love this stuff. I find it, I don't think it's so expensive actually. I bought this bag, here it is. I bought it when I was in the United States last time, and it's $10. But in this bag, I'm sure there was at least 5 of these brushes. And each one of these brushes, I mean, I take a couple of turns, maybe 3-4 turns on a fly. So I might get 10 flies out of this one brush. So that's, 50 flies out of this bag. I mean, to me, that's kind of still a bargain. A little bit of Krystal flash. A bag like this of Krystal flash, this one's pearl. This could probably last me 20 years. I mean, I use a strand at a time. I'm not pounding this bag. I'm not a professional fly tyer. I'm not selling flies. What else is going in here? Silly legs. Again, I'm using silly legs. A bag like this of silly legs will easily last me 10, 12, 15 years. I mean, I just don't use that many. I tie a few flies for myself. Maybe I tie for my children. Bag of Dumbell eyes. That's the whole thing. And I guess the whole point that I'm getting at is you don't have to buy a ton of materials. Buy some colors that are pretty universal. Buy some, your natural colors, your browns, your tans, your creamy color sand, olives, black. Black's a must. White. I happen to love pink and orange. I use them a lot. Then if you buy hooks that are size appropriate. I grew up doing a lot, targeting redfish, snook, sea trout, tarpon. That was my window. So I tied a lot, or I would tie a lot in size from 2, size 1, 4s. Can even go as small as a 6, 4 and 6 if you're looking more for bonefish, or if the redfish aren't monsters, all the way up to 1, 10, 20. If I'm fishing, a lot of times you're fishing in the Everglades and all of a sudden there's tarpon. You can't, you have to be ready. You have to be ready for everything. So from 20 to 2 anyway is a good little window that will catch a lot of different species. I like to tie good strong hooks. I probably would suggest that if you're gonna go cheap on anything, do not go cheap on the hook. It is painful to hook that fish of a lifetime and have your hook fail. So I would say if I was gonna spend money anywhere, it'd be on the hooks. So I say we tie one up. Maybe we figure out a name for this thing while we're tying it. And maybe we just call it a no-name fly. And change the camera angle. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. I hope you're having a cocktail, unless you're one of these young people that we were talking about, just getting started fly tying, in which case, you know, have a glass of water and let's tie a fly. Okay, so like I said, I have a Mustad hook in the vise, and let's go ahead and start some thread. This is 6/0 Vevus. I haven't actually used this thread in a long time, but I wanted to use some pink, and my 140 denier is that spool is empty, so we're using this 6/0 Vevus. It's fine, there's nothing wrong with this, it's a good spool. And we're going to start with some Dumbell eyes. You can use bead chain, you can use anything. For this fly I want to use size small, Chartreusse. I want to make a pink fly, and I just love the combo of the Chartreusse eyes with the pink fly. The location's about the same every time, about the width of the eye itself, just giving me enough room to make a head. You know, for me, I have such great childhood memories. I didn't have a ton of money growing up, but I was surrounded with people that loved to fish, and I was so lucky that even from a small child, people took me fishing. People showed me how to fish. And I mean everything. Inshore, offshore, you name it. You know, bonefish, the works. I grew up in Miami, and we're just surrounded by great fishing. So I feel very blessed in that regard. So you saw what I did, some basic X-wraps, and then I did the over and unders. Show you one more time. This is the most important part. Over the hook, under the eye. Over the hook, under the eye, because that really cinches all those other wraps nice and tight. So now, what are we going to do? We're going to tie on that brush, because this is really just a couple materials. It's brush, some silly legs. I could put some Krystal flash in. It's not really needed, but we can do it. In fact, we'll put a little Krystal flash in. And then the craft fur wing. That's the whole fly. So all I'm doing is tying in the wire, getting my thread out of the way. So like any brush that I might use, I go in the same direction as the thread. I know that seems a little counterproductive, but believe me, that is the best way to make sure that everything gets on there nice and tight and secured. And I do like to draw back the material, so it's going towards the back. Now I'm not doing tight wraps at all, so that's my second full wrap. I'm just getting a little coverage here. Nice big open wraps. So that's 3. Pulling everything back. I love this Chartreuse in pink. It is a wicked little combo. And it gets a ton of bites. That's 4. I'm going to do one more wrap. And that's 5. And maybe we'll put one more in. Don't really need it, but I like to have good coverage. Alright, 6. 6 total wraps on this fly. Probably didn't need to start as far back as I did either, but it's okay. So now I'm just going to capture, and to capture I just kind of wiggle my thread through there, and I go in front and behind. And now I'm just going to get my wire cutters, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off this brush. Just like that. Put that to the side because that'll make a lot of more flies. Now I am going to make sure that that little tag gets pushed down. Nice. So now you can either do the silly legs or you can do the Krystal flash. Doesn't much matter. You know what? Instead of using that pearl, I'm going to use silver. I'm going to put one little piece of silver. I didn't get anything ready because this fly is just too simple. So I can trim the length later. I'm going to go ahead and, do I want to put it on the side or do I want to put it, I'm going to put it so that it sticks out underneath. Just like that. Because remember, this fly rides hook up. So then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that it's going to land where it'll nicely ride for the wing. Beautiful. I'm just dividing up one to each side right now, making sure that they end up where I want them. Just like that. Nice. Perfect. Once I put the wing on, those will be right where I want them. So now I'm going to get a little bit of crazy legs. And these little silly legs, these are purple and hot pink. I have orange and hot pink. I have a bunch of different colors, but I like this. I don't know. I just love these colors. A lot of people, you'll see a lot of people just rip these off. I don't rip them off. You can, but I think you just do more damage than you know. It takes a second to just take a scissor and separate a couple. And now I'm going to take the scissor and separate them again, because I want to put one on each side. And I think I might have accidentally grabbed 3. So that means, why not? I'll take one more and put 2 on each side. I love the way these look in the water. You know, the city legs float differently than the materials. So they just have a ton of action in the water. Alright. So what am I going to do? I'm going to make sure that they're roughly about even so they look okay. That's one of the reasons I don't like to separate them. I'll show you what I mean in a second here. But that looks alright. So I'm going to put 2 on my side. I'm just going to put it on the thread. Trying not to capture the crystal flash. That looks about right. And I'm going to put them on my side, always remembering that the hook will ride up. And now I'm going to take the other 2, which are still not separated, which makes life a lot easier, and I'm going to repeat the process. I'm just trying to get them about the same length. And I'm going to put them on the side, on your side now, facing away from me. Perfect. Silly legs applied. Okay. So now I'm actually going to flip this fly over and put on some craft fur. Or I could pop it out of the vise, just as easy, and flip it over. Okay, like where everything is sitting. So now I need to get a little clump of craft fur, and essentially this fly is done unless I want to do any. I could do some marking. I could use a Sharpie and mark up the pink just as easily as I did the others. I'm just gonna get a little clump here. Don't need a giant clump. You know, craft fur. You can use bucktail, you can use fin raccoon, you can use pretty much anything, but craft fur works good in this scenario. Sometimes I like to use the fin raccoon because it doesn't foul as easily as craft fur, But this particular way of tying, it's not really a big problem with fouling on the craft fur. You know, if I was a young person starting out, if you asked me what material must I have, if you're a South Florida guy, if you're fishing, you know, snook, tarpon, redfish, my automatic answer is going to be bucktail. Bucktail and marabou. Man, I love those materials. I also love craft fur, fin raccoon, and a million other materials, but you can easily tie this fly with bucktail. So I'm just presenting the craft fur now, and I like that length right there. I don't have a set length. It's about 2 hook shanks. And I'm just going to trim it right there. Very carefully, making sure that everything is where it's supposed to be. The city legs are all on the correct side. And now I'm just going to secure this. One wrap behind the eyes, making sure that I'm not covering the eye of the hook. Couple loose wraps, just like that. Making sure that I'm nice and centered before I go ahead, and I'm holding everything tight. Now I'm going to pull this tight. And now I'm going to go ahead and just lock everything in. Just like that. Beautiful. Gosh, that came out so good. I'm just going to trim this up a little, clean it up. Because I am going to use UV resin. So I want to get rid of some of these wild hairs. Give this a little bit of a whip finish. For the whip finish, you can do it with your fingers. I use the tool. I just think that my flies come out, my whip finishes come out a little bit cleaner when I use my whip finish tool. Because I'm going to use UV resin, I don't need to put another whip finish in. And while I take a second here to clean up my mess, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Perfect time to hit the like and subscribe. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and trim my length. I want them to be, I want some pink showing, so I can't cut them too short. Remember, they're rubber legs, so don't pull them too tight. I don't want them super long, so I'm going to have little tips showing of pink. Just like that. Beautiful. And now I could put a little black barring on this. Don't need it, but we could. I'll show you what I mean. So I take my craft fur, trying to get only the craft fur, and I just get a Sharpie and I just mark it up. Really simple. As I get away from the fly itself, I like my markings to get a little bit more spread out. It just gives it a little bit more of a fishy look. I think it came out good. So now I'm just going to check this with my lamp. Got a couple of wild hairs in there. I'll singe them off after I use the UV resin. I don't want to damage the knot. So I'm going to get my little clamp. easier if I put this hook back in the way it's supposed to sit in the vise. Now I could clamp it just like that. Keeps everything away. Sip my cocktail. Get a little resin going. You need very little resin here. I'm using a thin because it'll kind of soak into the thread. And really all this is doing is just making it bulletproof. I wasn't really using a lot of resin. I was just using the tip to distribute. Got a wild hair there. I'll singe it off. But yeah, that's pretty much the fly. Super simple tie, super inexpensive. Promise you, this will catch fish. You put this in front of a redfish, you better hang on, because you're gonna hook up. You know, a snook, a sea trout, largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, perch. You know, I mean, don't use these saltwater hooks if you're going after bass, but other than that, it's the same fly. Nothing real fancy here. Let me get I mean, if you wanted to do anything else, you could trim a little bit of the brush off the bottom here so that the fly will sit on the bottom a little bit better. And by that I mean straight off the bottom. You can just right down the center here, you can just give this thing a little trim just like that. You didn't lose any of the shape, and now you have a fly that is gonna more want to swim hook side up. That's all. All right, so welcome back. So I think it's a great fly. It's gonna catch a lot of fish. This is basically the exact same fly, exact same materials, different colors, same size hook, perfect for snook, redfish, sea trout, bass, you name it, anything. Don't really have a name for it. I mean, this is you know, a typical. I mean, I'm seeing a 14-year-old kid. He's got just a couple of little, you know, materials, a little bit of spare materials that maybe he picked up from an uncle or a father or somebody, and just wants to go fishing. You know, so that's what we're gonna call this. This fly is gonna be called Spare Parts. Perfect. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. And good luck catching, and see you on the next video.